What do you think of when you picture a symphonic concert in your mind? I think of grand performance halls, beautiful music, sharp-dressed musicians, and then of course the principal bassist with a dog under his chair staring at his mannequin wife in the front row. Domenico Dragonetti is a name known by every bass player. We've all had to suffer through his concerto that he didn't write, but his list of actual accomplishments is something that can't be overstated. He started self-teaching himself the bass when he was a small child and got very good very quickly. He surpassed his teacher at the age of 12. By the age of 14, he had been appointed principal bass of 2 different opera companies. By the time he reached 30, he had established himself as the double bass virtuoso of his time, playing solo recitals and concerts to large crowds cheering him on, which for the late 1700s was completely unheard of for a bassist. It's not even that common today. He invented a new type of bow that allowed the instrument to be played with more power and precision. He influenced composers such as Beethoven to break the cello and bass lines apart in his symphonies, leading to a revolution in the repertoire for the double bass. And with his solo works, he paved the way for future double bass virtuosos and essentially transformed the trajectory of the instrument. The bass would not be what it is today without him. But of course, because bass players can't have nice things, there's a catch. From all of his influence and success, Dragonetti was quite rich, especially for a musician at the time. Around the age of 30, he had been granted a position at the King's Theatre, which in combination with his virtuosity led him to celebrity status in London. With all of this professional success, one would think that his personal life would follow suit. Well, it didn't. Dragonetti had a few, quirks. He had no family in London, which is where he spent most of his adult life. He chose to live a single life with his dog Carlo. The dog lived and traveled with him everywhere, and was known for sleeping under his master's stool on stage during rehearsals and concerts. Carlo would even chime in with a howl or two during concerts if a tenor soloist was present on stage. And to be honest, that's kinda cute. Everyone loves dogs. But aside from Carlo, there were some other travelers that would typically accompany Dragonetti to his concerts, and this is where things get a little weird. In letters shared between Dragonetti and opera singer at the time, Henry Phillips, as well as the reporting of Phillips in his memoirs, we get an insight into the man, the myth, and the dolls. Phillips describes Dragonetti as very childlike outside of his profession. He emphasizes that the man was very kind-hearted and incredibly talented, but he was abounding with eccentricities. Basically a very nice way of saying that he was weird. He then goes on to share about his friend's obsession with dolls of all kinds and shapes and colors. He had an entire room in his house filled with them. He states that he finds it very strange for a man of such talent to be obsessed with something like this. But then it gets a little more disturbing. Dragonetti seemed to have had a strange weakness for them, as if they were alive. When visitors would come over, the dolls would have to move off of the furniture and the table, as they were occupying everywhere a person would sit. He would call the large black doll his wife. She would accompany him on concert tours, traveling with him in his coach, and he would dance with it outside to onlookers' amazement. And yes, it seems that these dolls were a common staple at his concerts, being given front row seats. In another letter that was written between Phillips and Dragonetti towards the end of his life, Dragonetti continues to treat these dolls as if they were real people, talking of their education and expressing how clever they are. He even refers to his house as a seraglio, or a harem, which could lead to some pretty disturbing inferences you could make.
Ugh. Brother, ugh.
But why would he do this? Maybe I watched too many scary movies as a kid, but when I hear dolls, all I can think of is Billy from Saw or Chucky from Child's Play. The idea of having a bunch of these things laying around my house is just disturbing to me. We could just chalk this up to him being a weirdo, but there are a few other explanations out there that could make sense. The first theory is that he did this for self-promotion. He was a celebrity for his virtuosity already, but he wanted to make sure you'd never forget him. Bringing dolls with him to concerts could have been a way to make sure that he was always remembered. Any publicity is good publicity, I suppose. This would keep people coming back to see what he might do next. It was also possible that due to his kind-heartedness and childlike nature, that he brought these dolls along to allow children to play with them, making their concert experiences better. There's also a hint of practicality when traveling with these dolls. When traveling from one place to another on his concert tours, he would often be alone. Having another person there, or at least something that looked like a person, would be helpful when it came to security. That would certainly be enough to scare me away. It's possible that he could have been obsessed with these dolls because of some social anxiety or misogyny he held towards women. Based on his pictures, he was a relatively good-looking guy that was very famous in his city, and he was quite successful. I think it's safe to say that if he wanted a human wife and a family, he could have gotten one. In the last letter we looked at, it was suggested that he may have preferred dolls over real women because they did not age. And this could make sense. Perhaps he was the world's first incel before the internet. He was paving a way to the future. He may also have had some social anxiety towards women, but that would be hard to justify considering he was a live performer for a living. I find it hard to believe that someone who is that anxious would be able to make a living up on stage nearly every night. Another possible cause of his anxiety was the fact that he couldn't speak English properly, and since he lived in London, communication was probably very difficult with other people. It was said that he would sometimes babble in a mix of various languages, English, French, and Italian mainly. This came to a head when he was trying to talk to Napoleon, who told him to shut up and let his music do the talking. Or it is possible that he had some kind of disorder or delusion about these dolls. I'm no psychologist, so obviously take this with a grain of salt, but delusional companion syndrome is something that caught my eye. This is where a person believes that a non-living object is conscious and can feel emotions, and it can be associated with brain damage or other neurological conditions. The last theory that I can think of is reborn dolls. Reborn dolls are made to look extremely realistic to whatever they are portraying. Most commonly, it is of an infant. These dolls can be used in therapeutic and or religious ways to comfort a person after a loss, such as a mother losing her baby. But they can be revolting and creepy to some people because of how realistic they look. It is debated whether these dolls actually help people with the grieving process, but this could be why Dragonetti had such an attachment. It could have represented a loss for him. In any case, it was weird at the time, and it's still weird now, but that doesn't take away from all the musical accomplishments of his life. I just found this interesting. His favorite doll is currently displayed at the Royal College of Music, along with his famous bass. If you ever get the chance, go check it out and send me some pictures. We'll just hope the doll doesn't come alive.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribe and check out my Patreon. Link is in the description.